Hey, welcome or welcome back. Remember when your sound cards needed a PhD to configure? Well, we're once again going back to these times to celebrate studios that burned bright on DOS, releasing one, maybe two knockout hits, and then poof, they disappeared like a fart in a crowded elevator. Let's honor the legends that made 90s gaming so fun. Cyberdreams was a daring California outfit that mixed surreal horror with high-concept artistry. Their big moment was 1992's Dark Seed, a creepy point-and-clicker built around H.R. Geiger's biomechanical designs, featuring sharp, high-res visuals and a brutal in-game clock that punished missed actions. You play as Mike Dawson, whose worst headache turns out to be a literal alien embryo lodged deep inside his skull. The studio followed up with the Dreamers Guild joint developing of a cult hit I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, but none of their later releases ever matched the first jolt of dread. Cyberdreams closed down in 1997, but they made fear feel stylish, and that still lingers. French studio Silmarils created RPGs that were both beautiful and punishing. Their DOS-era peak arrived with the Ishar trilogy, preceded by the Crystals of Arborea, a tactical fantasy precursor with open exploration. The Ishar games were first-person party-based role-playing adventures with intricate systems and hand-drawn visuals, rewarding persistence and curiosity. Their 1994 release, Robinson's Requiem, shocked players with its brutal survival realism, featuring malnutrition, bleedouts and even limbless mechanics. But despite that and other of their innovations, Silmarils never recaptured Ishar's mainstream success and folded in the early 2000s. Today, they're revered by the RPG purist as architects of richly illustrated and fiercely demanding fantasy worlds. AdventureSoft, which began as HorrorSoft, carved out a niche in quirky, character-driven adventures. HorrorSoft released cult horror titles like Elvira, Mistress of the Dark and Waxworks, but the studio's true golden moment came with AdventureSoft's Simon the Sorcerer in 1993. It spoofed fantasy tropes with dry British wit, fairy tale absurdity and glorious hand-painted backgrounds. The character of Simon, voiced by Chris Berry, won hearts with his sarcastic charm and running commentary. A sequel followed in 1995 and then another in full 3D in 2002, trying to evolve the series, but none recaptured the original's brilliance. Though AdventureSoft still exists today, other than working on the latest follow-up to Simon, they're mostly dormant and you hardly hear about them. Futura's brief but legendary moment came in 1991's Panza Kickboxing, a martial arts simulator endorsed by champion Andre Panza. Rather than relying on arcade flash, explosive moves and super specials, the game featured 56 assignable real-life kickboxing techniques, a training gym to customize fighters, and detailed animation that gave each blow real weight. It was a triumph of realism for its time. Later iterations and retitled versions offered slight refinements but never evolved far beyond the original. Outside of this franchise, Futura faded quite fast, but that one perfect punch still resonates, a sleek skill-based brawler that made DOS and Amiga's rings feel authentic. And yes, I had to mention the Amiga. Coktel Vision flourished with oddball, experimental adventures like Goblins, a game starring 3 goblins with distinct abilities. The puzzles in Goblins encouraged absurd trial-and-error chaos and even more weird outcomes. It became a trilogy with parts 2 and 3 releasing soon after, each tweaking the formula a little. Their catalog also included Inca, Win the Prophecy and the delightfully oddball Woodruff and the Schneeball. Acquired by Sierra in 1993, Coktel was shuffled through several owners before disappearing under Mindscape in 2011. And while their brand turned toward edutainment in later years, what fans cherish is their goblin-powered mayhem and a design ethos that rewarded curiosity with slapstick charm. Born from the European demo scene, Thalion Software crafted technically dazzling RPGs like 1992's Amber Star. It combined a massive 2D overworld with first-person dungeons and a heartfelt story. Its sequel, Amber Moon, that released only on the Amiga, refined the formula with smoother pseudo-3D visuals and expanded lore. Both of these games were backed by memorable synth music scores. Sadly, their creative passion outpaced commercial success and Thalion closed shortly after Amber Moon. Today, fans remember them for marrying cutting-edge programming with artistic ambition, and for building worlds that felt lovingly handcrafted. Cryo Interactive's breakthrough came with 1992's Dune. Yes, the Dune. But no, not Dune 2. It was developed in-house and published by Virgin Games, and it was a rare hybrid. Part graphic adventure, part strategic resource simulation, where players mingled with noble houses and managed spice production in a desert world. The CD-ROM version added voice acting and film clips from David Lynch's Dune, making it a showcase for emerging multimedia. Cryo extended their formula with later stylistic experiments like Dragon Lore and Lost Eden, and while there were decent releases, rising production costs and mismatched market tastes led to their bankruptcy in 2002. Cryo remains etched in memory as digital futurists who gave PC gaming an exotic glow. Creative Reality's calling card was Dreamweb, a top-down adult cyberpunk thriller that felt like a dark sci-fi film compressed down to a series of floppies. Clear Blade Runner vibes overtook the presentation stylistically, both in terms of its looks and sounds, and it made for a very enjoyable, even if heavy-toned adventuring. Dreamweb gained notoriety for serving bucket loads of mature content and pulling very few punches. Nudity, violence, it's got it all, and it doesn't hold back. Creative Reality sadly never landed another DOS-era headliner and drifted from the spotlight, never to resurface again. But Dreamweb endures as a touchstone for truly grown-up 1990s PC gaming, proof that pixel art can unsettle and stay unforgettable. In 1994, Cygnus Studios delivered Raptor Call of the Shadows, a crunchy vertical shoot-em-up with tight controls, beefy sound effects, and that irresistible earn cash by bigger guns loop between missions. In fact, everything about it was great, and it is often cited as one of the 2 best DOS shmups ever made. I'm sure you know what's the second. While Raptor was an easy game to get into, it wasn't a piece of cake to master, more like a donut to master. Raptor spread widely by the shareware model, making it one of the must-haves for the sharing generation of gamers. In the following years, Cygnus collaborated closely with Apogee on multiple projects and later rebranded as the Mountain King Studios, shifting to new arcade-style shooters on Windows. Raptor, however, is the only out of their original releases that stuck with gamers. Still easy to pick up, still hard to put down, and still teaching us how to make every shot and explosion count. Andrew Spencer Studios, that sounds suspiciously like a one-man operation, released Ecstatica in 1994, a haunting 3D adventure that rendered characters as ellipsoids rather than polygons, yielding a bizarre, organic look that felt like a fever dream. It mixed free-roaming exploration, environmental storytelling, and sudden, tense combat with minimal UI to keep the mood unbroken. Think Alone in the Dark, only not alone, and definitely not in the dark. A sequel followed in 1997, following the same addictive tropes of open exploration, hiding mechanics and surreal encounters, and keeping that unsettling medieval vibe of the original. As 3D engines standardized and budgets ballooned, the studio couldn't keep the pace and went quiet. Ecstatica remains a cult touchstone for strange but brilliant in-DOS horror, proof that weird can be beautiful and sometimes terrifying. British team Divide by Zero carved a niche with their iconic 1990s free comedy sci-fi adventure Innocent Until Caught, and also its released 2 years later sequel Guilty. Their worlds leaned on adult humor, hilarious situations, gadgety puzzles, and a streetwise noir streak, which made their later and darker The Orion conspiracy stick out, as it followed themes of corporate corruption, grief and murder, and served a bleaker tone than most genre peers dared. Stylish art and voice acting helped, but the late 90s adventure collapse hit hard, and none of Divide by Zero's games became breakout hits, despite being genuinely fine releases. The studio faded soon after, in 1996, leaving a tidy stack of cult favorites for connoisseurs who like their puzzles clever and their jokes a little mean. SimTex didn't just make a hit, they helped crystallize PC4X with Master of Orion, where alien diplomacy, sprawling tech trees, and spacefaring empires leaned into civilization's just one more turn disease. They followed with Master of Magic in 1994, which is actually a personal sleeper hit favorite of mine that blended city building and wizard-led tactics into a fantasy sandbox that some fans still replay even today. Master of Orion 2 refined the template, but the studio itself closed down by the late 90s and its IP rights shuffled elsewhere. SimTex may had a short life, but left a huge shadow that still casts its shade on modern strategy games, whether they know it or not. The Dreamers Guild blended idealism and experimentation. They wanted their games not only to offer fun gameplay, but also make you think. And their 1994's Inherit the Earth was one of those games. A gentle, puzzle-driven adventure set among anthropomorphic morphs with a mystery at its heart. Then in 1995 they co-developed I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream with Cyberdreams, creating 5 harrowing character acts full of moral choices that hurt and decisions that had consequences. It was based on Harlan Ellison's unmistakable and uncharted and uncompromising psychological horror writing. Critical respect didn't translate to big sales, and as budget rose and adventures waned, the guild closed shop by the late 90s. Their catalog endures as a beacon for narrative-first retro fans and a reminder that ambition sometimes outlives the studio that dared it. That was our short tour of brilliant studios that lit up DOS and then slipped into legend. Which game hit you the hardest back in the day and which deserves a modern revival? Preferably better than Master of Orion by Wargaming. If you can think of any other one-hit wonder studios, or 2 free-hit studios too, as clearly I've not skipped them in this video, let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to learn which made a mark on you. If you liked the video, hit those like, share and sub icons down below, and if you'd like to be notified of my future releases, hit the bell. It helps more than you know. Thanks a lot for watching, take care of yourself, and I'll talk to you soon.